committed one sin. They stood up like men and got ice for just being a man. Blessed those who struggle.
Good morning, this is Judon Boney, and you're listening to the all-new 1230 KCOH, KCOHradio.com, and now KCOH TV. More power in the message and the music. Good morning, I'm happy to be here. My name is Judon Boney. I think most of you, many of you, have seen and heard of me before, and it's good to be back at KCOH Radio. I'll be doing programming and shows regularly on KCOH between the hours of 8 and 9, Monday through Friday, except on Thursday when you'll have Ben Hall's Legal Hour. Our call-in number when we take calls, we're not taking any right now, but our number is 713-526-1230, 526-1230. A very good way to listen to us is online, and you can both watch and hear KCOH on the radio and watch it on TV. Now, we're just beginning, so this is our first maiden voyage. We'll get into a lot of things about talking about how we're going to do it, what's the concept and all that. We'll do that later. We just want to introduce ourselves to the KCOH audience this morning. And I thought one of the best ways to do that was to have a lady's voice who most of you probably have not heard of, but she was in Houston just a little more than a week ago. And we'll hear from her now. She's the daughter of Malcolm X.
This is how we construct a mighty legacy of our own with intellect, compassion, fairness, and morality, respect for our human dignity. It does not mean that your job is done. You must understand history and look to those before you and understand that they came together, they planned, they strategized, organized amongst themselves together. We must look to them for direction because, ladies and gentlemen, our job is not done. Every day we're challenged by witnessing the disrespect and disregard of our black and brown bodies, of our lives. Just recently we saw a young 15-year-old girl savagely removed from her seat with such force that her chair flipped over her in one direction while her body was thrown in another. And we have to do something about that. We have to do something about that. She does not deserve that. Some people are saying, well, she deserved it. She was disrespecting her teacher. But that is unacceptable behavior. And so with the Black Lives Matters campaign, I must ask each of you, how specifically does your life matter? Nelson Mandela said, not until a man has done what he considers to be his duty for his people and his country can he then rest in peace. My father was just in his 20s when the world would learn of him. Not many years older than most of you here this evening. You all look like you're in your teens. But, you know, a lot of people don't realize that my father was such a young man. You know, people talk about, oh, he changed when he went to the Middle East. He didn't change, he just grew up, he evolved. He was the same compassionate man, the same person who was compassionate. Brother Malcolm, just in his 20s, stood up and against the injustices around him. While other young men and women were also organizing demonstrations, protests, marches, and sit-ins, seeking to end the outright terrorism around them, seeking a quality of life for themselves and their families, integrating schools and public housing, Malcolm, just in his 20s, said, "We demand our human rights as your brother. We demand our inalienable human rights ordained by God." He did not compromise his stance for the sake of money, for the sake of simply being rich. He did not demand with hashtags and slogans and think his job was complete.
Well,
he saw himself as a reflection of you. And he lived his entire life serving his country, serving his people, serving God. He read everything that was available, so he was fully equipped to educate the masses, to inform his colleagues, to have discussions and create strategies in search of solutions to the human condition that would want to destroy his fellow brother and sister simply because of ethnic, religious, or gender differences. The climate of our nation was hostile to the humanity of African Americans. Jim Crow, separate but unequal, was the law of the land. Private citizens and organizations terrorized black people, similar to what's happening today without fear of repercussion. The African diaspora was unprotected and essentially without hope for change. And yet, in a humble submission to God, Malcolm X stood up and stepped forward. Otherwise, he said, to lead us into an egalitarian future. But not much has changed, young people, since that time. The only thing that's changed is that we have smartphones and social media. Young people, you are brilliant, bold, and compassionate just to be here at Texas Southern University. This is your time. Your time to invest in yourselves by any means necessary, with a quality education, with significant purpose to your lives, with utilizing compassion and power to be your absolute best, fully evolved human beings, utilizing all of your senses of compassion, humanity, and justice. People often ask me what it's like to be a daughter of Malcolm X and Dr. Betty Shabazz. I was raised proud to be of the African diaspora, proud to be a woman, and proud to be a Muslim. I was raised understanding the importance of education and history, the importance of humanity, the importance of leadership and self-reliance, that I am my brother and sister's keeper, to be my best so I may give of my best to my community and our society at large, the importance of power, my power. As a child, I recall watching my mother work in the cause of human rights. I remember her participating in the International Women's Conference that was held in China shortly before she passed away. When I was at my lowest, writing my first book, Growing Up X, afforded me an opportunity to reflect on her life as a source of inspiration and strength. She had given so much love and direction that I wanted to share with others, and so Growing Up X was my coming-of-age memoir. But with 6 daughters, boys ringing our doorbells, and weekly episodes of Soul Train and the Brady Bunch, Growing Up X is likely not what most people expect of the family of Malcolm X. My father was a compassionate man, loving man. And most people thought differently. Did you have a different perception of Malcolm X when you were growing up?
Man.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
No justice, no peace? Well, it would still be that. You know, but that comes from compassion. You know,
Amen.
You have to understand Malcolm was just in his 20s. You know, and he got all these values from his parents. You know, my children's book talks to the values, the role of his parents. His family, they sought to destroy his family. His father was the president of the Garvey movement. He was responsible for the Marcus Garvey movement, Universal Negro Improvement Association in the 1920s, commanded millions of followers in the 1920s. And Malcolm's father was the president of the chapter in Wisconsin, I think it was. And when Marcus Garvey was arrested, it was Malcolm's father who wrote a letter to President Coolidge at the time and suggested that they let Marcus Garvey out of jail for these supposed mail fraud charges, and they let Garvey out of jail. And that Malcolm's mother was the national recording secretary for this organization. Her uncle, Egerton, was one of the co-founders with Marcus Garvey of this movement. So Malcolm came from a family of activists. And I had read so many books that said Malcolm's mother was crazy and mentally disturbed.
All right, we're back. I'm Judon. This is the new 1230 KCOH, KCOHradio.com, and KCOH TV. That was Malcolm X's daughter, Ileala. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correct, Shabazz. And I'm sure somebody will correct me before it's all over. But she was at Texas Southern University on October 30th, speaking to the students, faculty, and staff at Texas Southern University. And her words echo my feelings exactly about this opportunity at an institution called KCOH Radio. We have a guest holding. It's Dr. Gerald Horne. I'm very happy to have him as the first guest on our show. Dr. Horne is a member of the faculty at Texas Southern University. He is an historian. He is the, did I say Tech? I meant to say University of Houston, not TSU on the mind. Forgive me, Dr. Horne. Dr. Horne, you've earned your PhD in history from Columbia University and a JD from the University of California at Berkeley and a bachelor's from Princeton University. And you are the author of more than 40 books and 100 scholarly articles and reviews. Current research focuses on a variety of subjects such as the impact of the Haitian Revolution on the United States, a biography of Paul Robeson, one of my favorites, and an analysis of pro-Tokyo Negroes before 1945. I think we'll stop right there. Can you explain what that's all about?
Well, you need to realize that before World War II, the nation probably most admired by many black Americans was Japan.
Wow.
Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois had many contradictions between and amongst them, but all were supportive of Japan because its very existence, from their point of view, basically undermined the very notion of white supremacy, since it was an Asian nation. And Japan, of course, reached out to black Americans because it wanted to subvert the United States of America. It thought it would be very useful in that regard to have black Americans within the gates, so to speak, supporting Tokyo. In fact, one of the episodes that I uncover in this book is that in November 1942 in East St. Louis, Illinois, right across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, you had these black Americans who were drilling in military uniforms in anticipation of a Japanese invasion of the North American mainland. And, of course, they were going to join in this invasion. And, of course, obviously this bespeaks the alienation and the brutalization of black Americans that had led them to this level of desperation. And, of course, the rulers of the United States took that into account when they began the agonizing retreat from Jim Crow after World War II concluded with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the first and only time atomic weapons have been used, and hopefully the
last time
that
yes.
atomic yes.
Wow, amazing what we don't know about our own history. The pro-Tokyo Negroes. We'll have to revisit that. Now Dr. Horne, you have a new book that's out. Tell me a little bit about that.
The title is Confronting Black Jacobins, the United States, the Haitian Revolution, and the Origins of the Dominican Republic. The Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804, was a world historic event, the first successful revolt of the enslaved, the first establishment of a black republic. But the Haitian Revolution also had implications for the United States of America, because I argue in this book that you can't understand the abolition of slavery in the United States without understanding how the Haitian Revolution ignited a general crisis of the entire slave system that could only be resolved with its collapse. Of course, I deal with the contemporary ramifications of that. You know that in the Dominican Republic, which shares the island of Hispaniola with Haiti, the government in Santo Domingo has been busily expelling its darker-skinned nationals under the false premise that they're all Haitians. And you can't understand this contemporary outrage without understanding the fact that the DR seceded from Haiti in 1844 in a move engineered by the United States in order to weaken the abolitionist republic, in order to weaken the whole movement towards abolition of slavery.
Let's take our time. We've got some time this morning, and we may take a few calls later on. Why did you title the Black Jacobins?
Well, it's a takeoff on a book that's a classic study of the Haitian Revolution, written by the Trinidadian intellectual C.L.R. James in 1937. Mm-hmm. It's a classic of black literature, a classic of Pan-African literature. And I use that book as my takeoff, but I go beyond it because James, like most, only focuses on the revolution, that is to say 1791 to 1804, and I go beyond the revolution because, of course, events happened after the revolution.
And James was a Pan-Africanist, correct?
Absolutely, he was.
So let's set a context because our listening audience may not have done the research that you have. Let's talk about what Pan-Africanism and how Haiti figures into, historically, the context of what was going on with African people in the United States.
Well, the concept of Pan-Africanism basically speaks to this idea that people of African descent, wherever they might be sited, have commonalities that should unite us against our common foes. C.L.R. James, of course, was born in Trinidad and Tobago, which, of course, is off the northern coast of South America. And he wrote many books, and he was a Pan-Africanist in the same sense that you might consider Marcus Garvey or W.B. Du Bois a Pan-Africanist.
Or Malcolm X.
Or Malcolm X, for that matter.
Very certainly. And how does Haiti figure into, historically, the context of what was going on with African people in the United States? Not many people really realize the significance of that revolution.
Well, in order to understand that, you have to understand my previous book, The Counter-Revolution of 1776, Slave Resistance in the Origin of the United States of America, where I argue, contrary to most previous scholars, that the establishment of the United States of America was no great leap forward, certainly not for Africans, because our plight worsened after the United States was formed, and in fact, the slave trade increased after the United States was formed at the behest of U.S. rulers. The Haitian Revolution, in many ways, was a rebuff to the United States because the Haitian Revolution fundamentally led to the cessation of the slave trade. The cessation of the slave trade was a step forward for Pan-Africanism because the slave trade was not only beleaguering West Africa, the bulge of Africa in Senegal, all the way down to southwestern Africa and Angola and Namibia, around the Cape to Mozambique into Zanzibar. It was beleaguering the entire continent. After the Haitian Revolution and the realization that the slave trade and slavery came with a steep price and a steep premium, you saw Britain move towards abolishing the slave trade in 1807, the United States following in 1808. So you can't understand Pan-Africanism without understanding Haiti.
And give our audience a bit of an understanding about what the Haitians actually did, because that island has repressive history that traces back not only to Spain but also to France. Explain a little bit about that dynamic.
Well, in some ways, Haiti was the most valuable piece of real estate on planet Earth at the time of the revolution. This was due to the brutal exploitation of the free labor of enslaved Africans. However, what happened was that there was an overreach, as so often happens, by the ultra-right. That is to say that they brought in so many Africans that in many precincts in Haiti, the Africans were outnumbering the settlers at a rate of 30 to 1, which provides objective and fertile conditions for a slave revolt, which is precisely what happened. Indeed, one contemporary scholar argues, and this is not a point I agree with, but I'll mention it anyway because it provides valuable context. A contemporary scholar argues that the Haitian Revolution led to a genocide against Europeans. I think that's a bridge too far, but it does give an idea of the kind of bloodshed that came as a result of the Haitian Revolution, which terrified slave owners because they had reason to fear that they would suffer the same fate, and that led directly to the abolition of slavery.
And the overthrow of the French military was quite a feat.
Oh, certainly it was. Not only the French military, but keep in mind that the British, who were probably the most powerful military force then, intervened in the Haitian Revolution and had its head handed to it. It suffered one of the most severe and ignominious defeats in the history of the British Empire at the hands of these Africans in Haiti. You should also know that the Haitian Revolution was a blow in favor of people who sell their labor for a wage. That is to say, it was a blow in favor of people today, such as myself, and I would assume yourself, that is to say, working class people. Mm-hmm. Because slavery served as a drag on the wages and working conditions of working class people everywhere. And so when slavery was abolished, it was not accidental that shortly thereafter you had a move towards an 8-hour day in the United States and worldwide. You had a move towards more trade unions, which leads to an increase in wages and an improvement in working conditions. So you have to understand the Haitian Revolution not only as a Pan-African struggle, you have to understand it also as a class struggle.
Who were the leaders of the Haitian Revolution and who was in power in France at the time? Haiti was a French colony, correct?
Haiti was a French colony, and the Haitian Revolution is very much tied to the French Revolution, which is very much tied to the fact that France had gone into debt to support the rebels in North America led by George Washington, mm-hmm. who overthrew British rule in 1776 to 1783. But in order to finance these rebels in North America, this debt proved to be a crushing burden that impoverished the French people, which led them to overthrow the king in July 1789 and try to establish a broader recipe of rights for French people.
This is King Louis?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And in Haiti, or on the island of Hispaniola, you had many so-called jeunes de couleur, or what we might call mulattoes or lighter-skinned Negroes, mm-hmm. who in many ways were slave owners themselves, and they were demanding the same rights that people enjoyed in Paris. They were not being accorded those rights by the local administrators, and they began to ignite protests, which then is taken up by the Africans in August 1791, and the rest is history. This also leads, I'm afraid, to a rather strong persecution of lighter-skinned Negroes in the United States of America, because from the point of view of those defined as white, the reason for the Haitian Revolution was not necessarily the exploitation of enslaved Africans. The reason for the Haitian Revolution was the fact that the lighter-skinned Negroes would not stand in their place and therefore got a bit too bumptious and rambunctious.
All right. Now, who was Napoleon's, had Napoleon risen to authority in France at the time of the Haitian Revolution?
You are correct. What happens is there's a revolutionary process that so often happens was aborted by the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, who sought to drown the revolution in blood. He sent his best troops to Haiti, and like the British before them, they had their heads handed to them by the Africans. What this meant was that Napoleon and France decided to liquidate its claims to a good deal of North American territory. I'm speaking of the so-called Louisiana Purchase. Now, of course, we know that this land actually belonged to the Native Americans, but it was claimed by France because of their loss of valuable Haiti. Napoleon chose to liquidate his holdings and sold the Louisiana Purchase to the United States, which increased exponentially the territorial expansion of the United States. It brought the United States to the border of what is now Texas, which, of course, at that time in the early 19th century was controlled by Mexico. And therefore, the Haitian Revolution, ironically, led to a strengthening of what proved to be its ultimate antagonist, speaking of the United States of America.
So the heroes of the Haitian Revolution were Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines?
Yes.
We did not mention their role.
Yes, sorry about that. Of course, Toussaint Louverture is a hero in the Pan-African world. It's no accident that you find many black youth today named Toussaint, for example. You may recall that he was the general in charge of the Revolutionary Army in Haiti. You may also recall that as a result of what he thought were negotiations, he was kidnapped by the French and bundled off to Europe, where he eventually died in the early part of the 19th century. However, he was succeeded by Dessalines, who you mentioned, who carried the torch of liberation further.
Well, this is quite an expanse. What I'd like to do, we need to take a commercial break. We're talking with Dr. Gerald Horne, who's a professor of African American Studies at the University of Houston, and his new book, Black Jacobins?
Confronting Black Jacobins.
Confronting Black Jacobins. And what I want to do when we come back, Dr. Horne, is investigate and help you let us understand what happened to Haiti. How did it fall from this glorious state of independence for African people to the shape that it's in now, and also the split that caused the creation of the Dominican Republic. And let's kind of bring it up current. But we'll take a break and we'll be right back with Dr. Gerald Horne on KCOH.
1230 KCOH is now live and streaming. Hi, this is Sabrina Lott with KCOH TV. Yes, you heard me correctly, KCOH TV. And you can now hear and see 1230 KCOH and all of our wonderful on-air talent streaming live on your phone, tablet, or computer. Simply log on to KCOHradio.com, click the KCOH TV tab, and either create a live stream account or use your Facebook logins to connect even faster. Soon, KCOH TV will have exclusive shows, concerts, behind-the-scenes footage, and even more surprises. And if you subscribe now, you will be getting all of this great new content absolutely free. Absolutely free. That is all just another example of the new KCOH. So in the meantime, stay locked into 1230 KCOH, where you never know what new and exciting development we will announce next. Stay tuned.
KCOH, radio you can hear and see. The new 1230. Better than ever.
I'm Rocky Moselle with StarRegistry.com. Since we were children, we've been told to reach for the stars. It was great advice. Now it's a great gift. Name a star after someone. For $54 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit StarRegistry.com, we will name a star after someone very special to you and send an incredible personalized gift. The new star name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Call the Star Registry, 800-282-3333 or visit StarRegistry.com for the hottest gift.
The Joanne Veterans Day sale is going on right now. Enjoy doorbuster savings up to 70% off throughout the store, including holiday cheer wreaths, only $12.99, and $2.99 a yard blizzard and anti-pill fleece solids. Plus, entire stock Christmas decor and floral at 50% off. Save even more with an extra 20% off coupon valid on sale and regular priced merchandise. Exclusions apply. Get it at Joanne.com. It's the Joanne Veterans Day sale, now through Veterans Day, only at Joanne Fabric and Craft Stores.
Right now, the Home Depot has Pergo XP Halioak laminate flooring for just $229 a square foot. Basic installation is just 89 cents a square foot. So, let's lay down a floor that stands up to our lives with double the durability of regular laminate and just as beautiful as real wood. Let's do this with Pergo XP Halioak laminate flooring for $229. Now, at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only, varies by market. Installation offer valid on laminates over $1.50 a square foot with minimum purchase of 250 square feet.
When you cough all day, you forget what a miracle coughing is. Your cough soars out of your mouth at 50 miles an hour. Your cough is faster than a greyhound and nearly twice as fast as the fastest man on earth. So when your husband spends all night coughing, remember what an amazing world you live in.
Or else, try Robitussin 12-Hour. It soothes and delivers fast, powerful cough relief for up to 12 hours. New Robitussin 12-Hour, because it's never just a cough. Use as directed.
He's one of the top attorneys in the country, and you can join him every Thursday between 8 and 9 a.m. on 1230 KCOH.
Hi, this is Ben Hall, host of the Ben Hall Legal Hour, the show where life meets the law, where the confusing legal system is made a little more understandable.
Attorney Ben Hall is dual board certified in both personal injury law and civil trial law. an accomplishment achieved by less than 1% of Texas's attorneys. The Hall Law Firm, where right wins over might. Call 713-942-9600. 713-942-9600.
Ever wonder what caveat emptor means? Res ipsa loquitur? Sui generis? Then tune in to the Ben Hall Legal Hour when court is in session.
If you have legal questions, be sure and listen to the Ben Hall Legal Hour every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m. on 1230 KCOH.
1230 KCOH is now live and streaming. Hi, this is Sabrina Lott with KCOH TV. Yes, you heard me correctly, KCOH TV. And you can now hear and see 1230 KCOH and all of our wonderful on-air talent streaming live on your phone, tablet, or computer. Simply log on to KCOHradio.com, click the KCOH TV tab, and either create a live stream account or use your Facebook logins to connect even faster. Soon, KCOH TV will have exclusive shows, concerts, behind-the-scenes footage, and even more surprises. And if you subscribe now, you will be getting all of this great new content absolutely free. Absolutely free. That is all just another example of the new KCOH. So in the meantime, stay locked into 1230 KCOH, where you never know what new and exciting development we will announce next. Stay tuned.
KCOH, radio you can hear and see. The new 1230, better than ever.
All right, Judon Boney, we're back this morning. The beginning of a whole new set of programming activities. I'll be here Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m., except on Thursdays when we'll be listening to Ben Hall's Legal Hour. We're here with Dr. Gerald Horne, who's a professor of African American Studies at the University of Houston. We're talking about his brand new book, Black Jacobins. Dr. Horne.
Yes, sir.
We've talked about Pan-Africanism. We've talked about revolution. We've talked about history. We've talked about how Haiti was the first country in, I guess, the Western Hemisphere to be liberated by Africans. That's fair?
For sure.
And what happened? When we think about Haiti now, it's pretty much a basket case, economically at least.
I think what happened, as I detail in the book, is that Haiti was surrounded by antagonists. You had this island of liberated Africans basically surrounded by empires based on slavery. That is to say, the Spanish in Cuba, the United States on the North American mainland, the British in Jamaica. And it was a very difficult tightrope for this small nation to walk. A blow came in 1844 when the United States helped to engineer the secession of the most valuable piece of the island, which was the eastern section of the island, that is to say the Dominican Republic. You may know that thousands of so-called free Negroes in the United States had migrated to Haiti to help build up that nation. However, they had migrated to the eastern part of the island, which meant that they had migrated to what became the Dominican Republic, and they got caught up in the conflict that rocked Haiti and Dominican Republic for years to come, to the point whereas the United States Civil War was jumping off in 1861, the Dominicans had invited Spain to come back and recolonize the DR. Now, most of the time, nations resist colonialism. The DR invited colonialism because of its hatred for Haiti. And we also know that the travails and difficulties of Haiti did not cease with the United States moving towards abolition of slavery. The United States annexed the entire island and then sent a good deal of the U.S. black population there. That barely failed in the Senate, by the way. Otherwise, many of us might be on the island of Hispaniola speaking French and English as opposed to being on the North American mainland speaking English, speaking French and Spanish rather than speaking English.
Well, now, I think we need to just kind of place ourselves back in history. You're covering a lot of time very quickly, Dr. Horne. I don't want to leave our listeners behind. The absolute hatred that the United States, England, France, all of the colonial powers must have felt toward Haiti must have been extraordinary.
Extraordinary is probably an understatement. I mean, first of all, there were Haitian fingerprints all over the major slave rebellions on the North American mainland. Nat Turner, circa 1831 in Virginia, Denmark Vesey, circa 1821 in South Carolina, Gabriel, circa 1800 in Virginia. The very name Haiti terrified slave owners because they thought that what had befallen the settlers and the planters in Hispaniola would befall them. That is to say, being murdered, perhaps in their sleep, by enraged Africans. And so this led to a concerted effort to overthrow the regime, and it was not easy for this regime, which had to spend its income not on health and education, but on guns to defend itself. And that helps to account in no small measure for the difficulties that Haiti is enduring today.
And did not France ultimately exact reparations from Haiti?
Yes, that is correct. In the 1820s, the slave owners were paid reparations, not the formerly enslaved. And in fact, what happened was that many of these slave owners had migrated to New Orleans. There is a long history uniting New Orleans and Haiti. And before the U.S. Civil War, New Orleans had more millionaires per capita than any other city in the United States. And this was due in no small part to the fact that Haitian reparations were going into the pockets of these Europeans in New Orleans. This is part of the irony of slavery in the Americas.
And how long did Haiti pay reparations to these slave owners?
Well, you could make a case for the proposition they're still paying reparations. Because it started in 1826, and you might recall that the deposed Haitian leader, Jean-Paul Aristide, at the time of the 200th anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, let's say in 2004, began to raise a case about those reparations payments being reversed, and before you knew it, he was overthrown and being bundled off to Africa. A very sad situation.
Now, all of this is in your book, The Black Jacobins?
Confronting Black Jacobins.
Confronting Black Jacobins. This is in your new book?
Correct.
And how can people get your book?
Oh, better bookstores everywhere, various websites. The publisher, I could mention Amazon, of course, Barnes & Noble, which of course has stores in Houston. And of course, the publisher is Monthly Review Press in New York City.
Okay. And you mentioned Aristide. That's one of the most perplexing modern day mysteries that I've come up with. I've witnessed, along with many people, what happened in the news. And I know that the United States played some role. And what happened? Where is Aristide? What happened to Aristide? Tell us what you know about how that whole incident with the removal of Aristide as the legitimate head of government occurred.
Well, as you well know, Aristide was a former priest who started a mass movement, Lavalas, that swept him into power after the deposing of the Duvalier father and son, the dictatorship that had ruled Haiti for decades. He was a very popular mass leader, but he outraged the major powers, not only because of his questioning this whole idea of reparations and actually asking that reparations instead be paid to the formerly enslaved as opposed to the reverse, but also with his relations with Socialist Cuba, one of the close neighbors of Haiti. And what happens is that he is overthrown, and before you know it, he was put on a plane and sent to the Central African Republic, and then was bundled off to South Africa, where he stayed for a number of years. He's back in Haiti now, but he's keeping a very low profile. His party, Lavalas, ran a candidate in the presidential elections that just concluded a few days ago. It was a Florida-style election in the sense that there were credible allegations about ballot stuffing and all kinds of misdeeds with regard to counting of the votes. Its party, therefore, did not do very well. You know that there was an earthquake in January 2010 that devastated the island, leading to the deaths of thousands. This led to the U.S. Red Cross coming into the island and collecting millions of dollars from many of our fellow citizens right here in the United States of America. But the houses that they pledged to build somehow were not built, and yet the money supposedly supposedly has disappeared. I'm sure you also know that former U.S. President Bill Clinton was the kind of viceroy on the island of Haiti, and his role has been criticized, and not to mention how he was working hand in glove with his spouse, the then Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. So Haiti has really suffered tremendously, and I dare say that a lot of it has to do with its boldness and its courage in overturning the tables of slavery, which of course led to the overturning of the tables of slavery right here in the United States of America.
And explain a little bit about this split that came to be the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Same island, two different governments.
Well, just a little background. When the revolution triumphed in 1804, the eastern side of the island was still controlled by Spain. In 1822, the Haitians march into the eastern side of the island and take over. They then begin to try to populate the eastern side of the island with black Americans who migrated into thousands there. In 1844, the United States helps to engineer the secession of what becomes the Dominican Republic on explicit racist grounds. That is to say that it was thought and was felt in Washington that the Haitians were oppressing those who were defined as mulatto and those who were defined as white. This led to something of a so-called race war that ultimately was not concluded in a way that was beneficial to either Haiti or the Dominican Republic. It basically weakened both and made the entire island ripe for the plucking. I think the contemporary manifestation of what I'm talking about is the very face of the former baseball slugger, Sammy Sosa. You may recall, played in Chicago, played in Texas. You may know that after his retirement, somehow magically, the melanin in his face began to disappear. This was not vitiglio or some other disease. This was a conscious process. And in his face, you begin to see the color phobia of many in the DR, this hatred and this fear and this loathing of the darker skinned. And that still, I'm afraid, undergirds the tense relations between Haiti and the DR.
Well, this is a lot to absorb, Doc, but I think it's enlightening. And let me just, we've got a little bit of time left, so if there are any listeners that want to call in and talk about this subject with my guest, Dr. Horn, we'll open up the phone lines. Our number is 713-526-1230, 713-526-1230. And I would dare submit that most of us really don't know this history about Haiti and the Dominican Republic. What does that mean for us, for us brothers and sisters here today? Because we are, as a community, disconnected from public policy, disconnected from the context of how public policy affects and impacts and bears some responsibility for us now.
Well, it bears repeating that if you don't know your history, you're flying blind. I mean, you're like flying a plane without any instrumentation, which suggests that you're due sooner or later for a bloody crash. In order to know where you're going and where you are, you have to know where you've been. And if you're not familiar with your history, you're basically cruising for a bruising.
Well, we're getting a bruising right now. We've got some callers. We're going to get them on in just a minute. Dr. Horn, how can people contact you? What's next for you?
Well, I have a biography on Paul Robeson coming out in a few weeks. I'm sure you're familiar with the great black American artist, activist, Paul Robeson, 1898 to 1976.
Who has not gotten his just due, so far as I'm concerned. He was, what used to happen, I guess it still happens today, you get called a communist and that's about it.
You are correct. That's what happened to Paul Robeson, who was a combination of Denzel Washington. He was Hollywood's biggest star in the 1930s. He was a Michael Jordan in the sense that he was the most famed athlete in the early 1920s. And he was a kind of Nelson Mandela as the top black political leader. But as you suggested, he ran afoul of the U.S. authorities, and he was denigrated as a, quote, communist, unquote. His passport was taken, and his ability to raise money and to have an income in the United States fell precipitously. I mean, his income went from the high six figures to the low four figures in a matter of months. And this, in a sense, drove him into a kind of depression. And he died in virtual seclusion in Philadelphia in January 1976.
Let's take these quick calls. We've got Carl holding on line 4. Carl, good morning.
Good morning.
Your question.
Yes, I want to know what happened to the guy before Aristide, Raul Cedrus. What happened to him? I remember all that military action. This is way back some time ago. What happened to him?
Well, he was a temporary leader, a kind of placeholder in the interval between the fall of the Duvaliers, and particularly the so-called Baby Doc, the son of Francois Duvalier, the longtime leader, and the rise of Aristide. As I recall, he wound up going into exile, and I assume he is still in exile.
Wow.
Carl, thank you for your call. Let me get Johnny on the air. Thank you so much. Johnny, what's your question?
My question is, I hope Donald Trump wins.
All right. That's classically not on subject. That's all right. We'll learn. Doc, I have really enjoyed you this morning. I want to ask you to come back. But again, I think that, well, first of all, you teach at the University of Houston. How can people get in your class? I want to register.
Well, I'm teaching, actually next semester I'm teaching 2 classes on Introduction to African American Studies and a seminar in 20th century African American history. I'm sure that the registrar of the University of Houston would be more than happy to welcome you into the land of the Cougars.
What led you have a JD degree. We've got one lawyer that walked in and one guy that knows a lot of lawyers. What led you to go into history as a field?
Well, when I went to law school, I was very young, and it was a different time.
Didn't know any better, huh?
Exactly. Exactly. And I thought that you would be able to use the law as a tool for radical change, but then the courts moved to the right, and that left me high and dry, so I decided to go into a field, history, where I could make much more of a radical contribution than I could in the law.
Well, I had similar thoughts about the law. I even had those strange ideas about using radio and television and communications to enlighten people, inform them, and get them engaged in a revolution. Then I got into the church, and that didn't work. But we're going to keep on with the struggle. So, Doc, let's talk about, frame your book again so we can encourage people to buy your book. We need people to support authors, and one of the ways that they can do that is by purchasing your book. Explain to them the name, the premise, and where they can get it again.
Confronting Black Jacobins, the United States, the Haitian Revolution, and the Origins of the Dominican Republic, available from Monthly Review Press in New York City. Also can be ordered through Amazon or Barnes & Noble right here in Houston, Texas.
And you have a website, contact information for folk who may want to invite you to speak?
Well, they can probably just Google my name and get my email address, or go to YouTube and watch some of my videos.
YouTube, yes. Thank you so much. Doc, we're going to let you go. We know that you have an upcoming engagement, and we want to ask you if you'll please come back.
Oh, I insist.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Horn. That's Dr. Gerald Horn, Professor of African American History at the University of Houston. Our very first guest on the Judon Boney Hour for the time being at KCOH, the new 1230. You can watch and listen to us. You can listen to us on KCOH Radio and online, and we're going to encourage people to listen to us online, and also you can watch us online as well. I think we have some commercials that we don't need to play, and so we have some upcoming guests. I want to say hello to some of my friends who are here. We have Councilmember Kubash and Councilmember Bradford. Two of my favorite council members are in, and they're about to come on and start some stuff. I know that there's some things and some discussion coming up. There's a lot of discussion downtown at City Hall. It's exciting down there. And I understand there's some discussion coming up about body cameras. And certainly that's important for us to get right and to understand what's going on there. So I've got to say goodbye now, and goodbye, Amber Shaw and Sabrina Lott, and welcome to the KCOH family. We will see you again tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I'm Judon Boney signing off from the new 1230 KCOH.
Offered their lives to give, dared to rebel rather than serve, to die so that we might live. Blessed those struggle. Oppression is worse than the grave. Better to die for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. Blessed are those who took up arms and dared to face our foes. Nat Turner, VC, Gabriel, Chinks, to mention a few names we know. Blessed are those struggle. Oppression is worse than the grave. Better to die for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. Blessed are the memories of those who were there at the Harper's Ferry raid. Strong were their hearts, noble their cause, and great was the price they paid. Blessed are those who struggle. Oppression is worse than the grave. Better to die for a noble cause than to live and die a slave.
The views and opinions expressed on KCOH 1230 talk programs are those of the host, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its owners, management, other hosts, or advertisers. Show topics on this station may include conversations on any lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practices. KCOH 1230, a better broadcasting company, LLC. KCOH Houston,
a better broadcasting company.
Hello, this is Houston City Council Member C.O. Brad Bradford.
And I am Council Member Michael Kubas. Join us at 9 a.m. the second Tuesday of each month right here on 1230 KCOH.
The program is City Talk, Water, Garbage, Infrastructure Issues, and Safety Services. That's Bradford and Kubas.
Or Kubas and Bradford.
9 a.m. the second Tuesday, 4-6.
I don't hear anything. Good morning, listeners. This is Councilmember Kubosh. I want to thank all of the listeners and those of you who voted in this recent election, that you overwhelmingly voted to give me another term in office. I'm so humbled by it, and I'm so thankful that you have done that, and I am prepared to continue to fight for you as I had promised over the last 2 years, and you gave me 4 more years. And so thank you very much for your support, your vote, and your confidence, and I will continue to fight for the citizens of the city of Houston and fight for the people. God bless you.
Good morning. This is our CEO, Brad Bradford. Now, Councilmember Kubosh just finished speaking, and he made what I would call a gross underrepresentation of what happened. And here's my comment. A good morning to the KCOH listening family. And thank you tremendously for supporting Michael Kubosh as a council member. And I want to lay out why. Councilmember Kubosh is the only municipal candidate in a citywide race that got reelected without a runoff this time. And he got the most votes. Now, that has been bestowed upon CEO Bradford on past occasions. I'm term limited. I was not on the ballot. But why is that? It goes to show that Councilmember Kubosh, like I, it doesn't matter if you are pro this or anti this, as long as you represent the people as you see input from the people. Councilmember Kubosh and I, there are many things that we don't see eye to eye, but the voters have bestowed upon us an opportunity and honor that few others have garnered. And this time with Councilmember Kubosh clearly returning to council without a runoff is a significant affirmation of your support of him and what he is doing, just like you did me. The last election cycle, I was the highest vote getter. I got 108,000 votes, and without a runoff. And you had a choice. You could have voted for my opponent. You could have not voted at all, or you could have voted for me, and you voted for me. I thank you for that. This time you did that for Councilmember Kubash. Now we're different. Councilmember Kubash is a Republican. I'm a Democrat. Councilmember Kubash voted against the Equal Rights Ordinance on council. I voted for the Equal Rights Ordinance on council. Councilmember Kubash is Anglo, and I'm black. But at the same time, the voters, they've treated us alike. And I say this to others who are coming on council and those who are still on council. This is an affirmation of the people wanting you to think independently, do what's right and what's in the best interest of the people. So thank you all. Thank you, voters, for voting and sending Michael Kubash back to City Hall with a clear affirmation that he is doing what you want him to do. Congratulations, Michael.
Thank you very much. And I will say this: the reason why we don't see eye to eye most of the time is he's about 6 to 8 inches taller than I am. So, and you know what's really funny is, and I know people call me a Republican, but the truth of the matter is, the last time I ran for office, I ran as a Democrat. So maybe I'm an independent. Who knows?
Well, I think that as we move forward and look at City Hall, there are runoff elections are underway, scheduled for December 12th, and the voters made some took some decisive actions this past week. The Proposition 2 dealt with the terms at City Hall. I think going to 4 years is a good thing. I didn't like the way it happened. I think the charter needs to be revised and not just piecemeal like that. And that's why I spoke out against it, because I didn't think we should piecemeal going to 4 years. But that doesn't make it a wrong thing. Going to 4 years, I believe, is a good thing. And I still think the city needs a full-fledged charter review to fix some of the other aspects in the charter. As an example, I've been calling for years for the ability for city council members to put items on the agenda. And I want to say thank you, Houston Chronicle, because you finally acknowledged, last Friday or so, you finally acknowledged what Bradford's been saying for about 4 or 5 years, that it would be a good policy and a better governance model if the city council members were enabled to put items on the agenda. And last Friday, I was not late, but I was delightfully